on remote in Dallas, Fort Worth, just actually almost downtown Dallas here for a special mission. And if I told you, I'd have to kill you. But we'll hint around. We'll hint around about it. All right. So what the heck am I doing in Dallas? Well, there's somebody, a major news magazine, national news magazine, wanted to do a story on someone who was afraid to fly. So I'll spare you all the details, but anyway, so we're working on that, and hopefully after tomorrow we'll have another success story. But in the meantime, we just want to welcome all of you to Fearless Flight Live. We've got our regular crew here. Diane is back with us. A few sniffles there. She's flying with those passengers who keep coming sick to the airport.
Germ factory. All those people.
The germ factory. Yeah. And I tell you, I lived a spoiled life because I went for like 25 years, never got a cold or the flu, and I'm sure most of it is the contact that you have with people back there. Oh, yeah. So yeah. So anyway, and Dieter Staudinger is here with us, of course, and Eric is off. He's watching his nieces play volleyball in Indianapolis, and he was going to be on, but they were successful, I think. And they ended up playing tonight, and so he couldn't make the show. But anyway, welcome to all of you, especially those of you who might be afraid to fly, or those of you who might know somebody who's afraid to fly, and anyone else that just joins us to listen to us babble about airplanes and stuff. Welcome back this week. I want to start out talking a little bit about relapse. I've had a couple of people this week talk to me saying, what's the deal, Ron? And they'll tell me, I get bothered by the weather. That was most of them. They're looking on the weather systems and the weather forecasts in advance, and they're seeing that it's going to be cloudy somewhere, or they're going to have thunderstorms in the next 6 months or something like that. And so I wanted to just touch on that. It doesn't matter what the issue is. It's got nothing to do with the airplane, got nothing to do with the weather. And we're not saying that there isn't risk involved in flying airplanes in areas where there's weather, but that's not what fear flying is all about. Fear flying is you can't get your attention away from where it wants to, where it's been hijacked to. And so the cure is not going to be by looking at the weather. And I have a person that I had several people this week who ironically are headed out, flying across the Atlantic to Europe. One tomorrow, one on Thursday, and then a couple in the next week. And I think that heightens their concerns about being in the air and thinking about overwater and all that. But all of them they're based back east, and in this time of the year you get clouds. We flew over from Dallas just about 4 hours ago, and we climbed out of Phoenix, and from the time we climbed out, there were clouds below us, just a few clouds in the Phoenix area, but then all the way to Dallas we had clouds. But you could tell we just touched a little bit of bump there for just a minute, and heard the guys spooling the engines up. Sure enough, man, we were cruising at 33. We went up to 35, according to the monitor, the flight monitor, and smooth as glass. You could see clouds everywhere. You could see thunderstorms building off in the distance and all that. But it was smooth as glass for us, and that's typically what happens when you have a weather system like that. So while everybody gets caught up in the fact that there might be thunderstorms taking off, for example, if you have any bumps, you're going to be through them in 15 minutes at the most, typically. And then you're into just a regular run-of-the-mill flying. And so we want you to find that courage to be able to disconnect from looking at and feeding yourself fear from watching the forecast, turbulence.com, weather.com, and things like that. Talk to us, talk to anybody, get on the in the groups and talk to other people like that. And then the other thing, which I'm going to transition into that Dieter and I have been working on is the 201. We've been adding content. We got some new content that's going to come out this week, which brings up the point. I've had people ask me, particularly people that I've worked with over the years, and they've been looking at the information coming out about the 201 class now, which is up in the cloud. And I had a couple of them this week said, Ron, what should I do that? Should I join the 201? And Dieter and I said resoundingly, absolutely, you should. And we've got a discount going right now for people who want to join. And you really do want to, especially for relapse, because it's the way to stay connected. You no longer have to wait for us to have a webinar, although there are monthly webinars where we will do coaching, live coaching, and talk about maybe items of interest that people in the course, and this is exclusively for people in the course. So I've had a couple of people join up that had gone through, years ago, and they both, say they spoke praises about it because it really helps them to stay out of the relapse mode. We touched last week on, yeah, go ahead, Dieter.
No. I like what Jim just threw in there. Our course is in the cloud, and there's no turbulence in that cloud.
Exactly.
And that is so true, because truly it's a pretty smooth and seamless experience, because we actually have an app now as well available to you, so you can actually consume the entire course content inside of the app. There are very simple instructions to follow inside the student portal to download the app. And then should you maybe have the Fearless Flight Kit or the Putting Mindfulness into Action audio and video program, then all of these products are now available inside of one app. And it's definitely, well,
there is right there. Whoops, I hit it.
That was the Teams app.
I hit it. Okay. But, yeah.
So,
but there's,
so that's definitely app. There. It is.
And then when you touch it, then it opens up into anything that we have at Fearless Flight, and that includes the online course, which you see at the top there. That includes the harmonizer. If you purchase the harmonizer, you'll have access to that. And if you purchase the 201 course, you get, as a bonus, you get the mindfulness course here, and the PMP, and then some other things that we're working on. So you get everything.
And the monthly group coaching calls are also, the replays are up on the course as well. So on the portal, and Tracy, the app is called Zenler, but the fastest way to get there, other than going to the iOS store, like the Apple store, and then just type Zenler in there, is go log into the student portal of the 201, and there is actually instructions on how to download the app and how to set it up. So that was that. And then we also have some other really exciting news, and that is that we just added 2 more Cleared for Takeoff 301 flight classes to our schedule. And Ron, I'll let you talk about those 2, and I'll just pull up the page on the...
Yeah, so we're actually becoming more organized, which is a scary proposition all by itself if you've been hung around us for any like the time. So now, and many of you know, if you're in the 201, you know that if you're in the 201, you're going to get a discount for the 301. And now last March was the first time that we expanded outside of LA and Phoenix. And I did the class back in Phoenix, or back in Boston rather. And we're going to be adding to that. Right now, we know that we have a nucleus of people who are interested because they've been telling us that in the Phoenix area and the Los Angeles area. So those are the next 2. We're going to do Phoenix and Los Angeles. Those continue to be the largest base that we have. But I keep picking people up in Atlanta, more people in Boston. people in the Midwest, in the Chicago area. So, and if you once you get into the 201, then there's a place in there where you can say, if you had a class in this area and you can fill out a preference there, I'd be interested, a 301 class. And what is the 301 class? It's where you get to put it all together. And it's the best of what I've done over the past 35 years. We get together with a group of our friends, and instead of coming to the airport worrying about what other people are thinking about you, you get in your own little world with the group that you've met online. And each 301 class comes with a webinar that we do typically the Thursday before the Saturday where we go fly. And so we don't leave you hanging there. You're coming right off the opportunity, particularly if you're enrolled in the 201. You can get yourself up to speed with either refreshing the skills that you learned some time ago, or if you're new to the 201, you can do the lessons and the modules as they're laid out there. And when we get to the 301, if it's in your area, like I said, the Los Angeles and Phoenix coming up. Phoenix, I think first we're going to do that on September 10th, I think, and then we're going to do Los Angeles. We're going to go from Burbank to Sacramento and back on September 17th. So we're working under the adage: if you build it, they will come. And that typically is what happens. And this is way ahead of when Dieter and I normally get it out there. So if you go over there right now, they have some sales on I was able to snag $59 one way on one of them. I had to buy, of course, 4 tickets for the 2 flights. Plus I got to get the LA, and I had to have it. But all of them were right now in that time of the year in September. Southwest is running a sale because that's in between everybody coming back from the summer and putting their kids back in school, and just before the holidays, Thanksgiving holidays. So that's a lull in the airlines. So it's a great time to jump out and snag one of their low fares. Go ahead.
And if you are in the 201 online course, then you actually you also get a $200 discount. So instead of $397, you can fly with Captain Ron, and hopefully, God, fingers crossed that I can make it down there too. You can fly with us for just $197, and you find that discount code actually inside the Cleared for Takeoff 201 student portal, and you just apply it at the checkout. And the really cool thing is, so what does it include? So the cost covers the tuition, and it includes a pre-flight briefing, which is basically a webinar. Usually runs about 90 minutes, where not only do we fully prepare you for the flight ahead, but also we go into the specifics of, whoever is on the webinar, the triggers, and what to expect and how to deal with it. And then you obviously get, depending on how many people are flying with us. Diane, you've been flying with us. Why don't you share what from your perspective, what some of the most rewarding, not necessarily for you, but rewarding for those who are actually flying. Yes.
The thing that gets me, that has always gotten me for all of the years that I've flown with the students, is when they make the return trip, it's like no big deal anymore. And the other thing is, they say almost to a person, I can't believe I waited this long. They just can't believe they waited this long to really address their fear, their anxiety, and I don't want to say they don't regret it by any means, but they just say, gosh, I'm just sorry that I waited this long, but I'm so glad that we did it now, because then all of a sudden the world has opened up to them, vacations and reunions and all kinds of things. So it's just so heartwarming to see their expressions are so their faces light up. It's a dream. It really is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's so true. Totally. Ron,
so
go ahead.
so take a look at it and see if that works for you. If you have any questions, shoot us an email at captainron@fearlessflight.com, and we'll get back with you. So we're really excited about that, and hope that it fits for many of you. Going back off of that, the whole thing about relapse. In talking to people, I get questions like, some of the more common questions are, what kind of turbulence is moderate? What kind of turbulence is light? And when I got a kick out of Jim one day, Jim Morris out in LA, and we were coming back from Chicago, and he said, how would you rate that turbulence? And I said, barely light chop. And he said, really? Yeah. So it just points out that it's all relative. The sensitivity that you have, you're much more sensitive when you're just coming out of your shell and getting acclimated to flying. And as we're climbing out today, we'll go from this, and we'll talk about what's going on in the industry right now. And Diane's got some personal stories for that. So, yeah. So we were climbing out today, and I was just thinking, we climbed out of Phoenix, barely a cloud in the sky right over Phoenix. But as soon as we crossed the mountains to the east, you've got a lot of moisture. It's in the monsoon time of the year in Phoenix, which means we get, 1/100th of an inch of rain instead of, 1,000th of an inch. But it does add humidity. So we get buildups over the clouds and stuff, or over the mountains there. And as you're climbing out, we climbed out and stayed above them the whole time, which is very typical. I forget when I'm coaching people, talking about departing when there's clouds in the Orlando area or the Atlanta area or the Dallas area. I forget that when you climb out, it's like I said before, it's only going to last for 10 to 15 minutes typically. And once you get above there, which is what we have today, is we got a little bit closer to Dallas. There were more buildups down there. I took a little bit of video, which I'll maybe post in one of the groups. And you could look out there. You can see these big things cooking off all over the place. But they were topping out at about 35,000 feet. Now, occasionally you'll get some that'll jump up to 40, 45. And I've seen thunderstorms sometimes go to 60. But if you got one that busts through the troposphere to 60, it's the only thing in the area, because the weather just kind of piddles out at about 40,000 feet max. Anyway, we were climbing out, and we're getting just a very little bump, and the guys just were right on top of it. They climbed us out, and you could tell when they put in the power, we got above it. And then the only time we had a few bumps again was letting down in the Dallas area. But it was virtually nothing, and you wouldn't necessarily guess that, because if you looked out the window, there were a lot of clouds, but high cloudiness when we got in the DFW area there. So I want to change horses here just a little bit and talk and invite Diane to participate as well in this project that I'm involved in, this adventure that I had to fly to Dallas today. And the plan was to meet up with some people off of the show, and tomorrow we were going to fly from here to out east, and they were coming in from New York. And first thing that happened, I didn't even get to the airport today, and I got a text says, "Hey, guess what? They canceled the flight." I already heard from American, which is what we were supposed to fly on tomorrow. So there's been a lot in the news about cancellation stuff, and we saw it firsthand. And I'll let Diane talk about her. She had a couple of ragged days flying here with the same kind of thing as well.
I did. In fact, I showed the guys a little bit earlier. There's not a meme, it's a group on Facebook, and they're called Two Guys on a Plane, and they have a lot of pictures and funny stuff about aviation. And I saw this one a few days ago, and I took a screenshot. It says, "Welcome to summer travel, where your flight's departure time is merely a suggestion." And it's funny in sort of a gallows humor sort of way, because as Ron said, all of a sudden right out of the gate, his flight was canceled. I had a 4-day trip and was supposed to get home yesterday, back to land in Phoenix around 2:15.
Yeah, excuse me. What was the name of that cartoon? What was the name of the group?
It's called Two Guys on a Plane.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called Two Guys on a Plane, and they've got a lot of very on point and funny, and like I said, funny in kind of an unpleasant way that addresses all kinds of aviation humor. And anyway, so I had well, this trip was very interesting. It was 4 days. We had a brand new flight attendant who was on her IOE, which is her initial operating experience. And the forward flight attendant was the lead, so she was teaching. And so this sweet young thing was flying with us for 4 days, and for 12 legs, I think that was our original schedule. And we had broken planes. And when I say broken, I'm not talking in pieces or anything, but something went wrong. We had cancellations, we had deplaning, we had delays, lots of delays. We wound up spending a night in Dallas when we were supposed to be spending the night in Colorado Springs. And which is interesting, just kind of a segue. For most everybody, this is summer, and you just don't expect there to be any concern about icing conditions. And Ron can address this far better than I can. But we had a situation with our aircraft that was not going to be. It was not on the minimum equipment. It's something that was a no-go item, which meant we could not fly to Colorado Springs because it was bad weather up there. And even though it was 60 degrees on the ground, and then when you take it, I mean, they were concerned about icing conditions up where we were going to be 35,000 feet. So we couldn't go there. So we had to cancel that flight, and we all wound up staying. And we had a plane full of passengers, of course, that got vouchers and didn't get to Colorado as they had hoped. And the very next day, we took a plane early in the morning, and we had one passenger, because everyone else had either bolted or made other arrangements. But that's really very unusual. All of my other flights in this 3-day trip.
Talk about service.
Packed, yes. Private jet. She had a private jet. but the rest of our planes are full. And just a couple of things, just for those of you who are making reservations and connections and things like that, please make sure you have enough time between a scheduled arrival time and your connecting time. The airports are packed. Things are it's a domino effect. And so we don't, and I imagine Ron is probably the same way. I would not book a connecting flight with less than really about an hour and a half, because things are just, and one of the things that's very interesting is you can land on time, you can even land a little bit early, but there aren't, because of the staffing issues, there may not be enough rampers to get a plane out. And so we waited in a taxiway in the alley for 30 minutes to get.
Yeah, you can get there early and watch your connecting flight taxi out without you, because they couldn't get you into the gate. So.
Right. So you just really have to build in extra patience, extra time, bring a book, bring whatever it is, bring your own food. Just be very, very patient with travel this summer, and just have plan B, plan C, plan D, plan whatever. That even goes for us, because we were scrambling. The four of us who were deadheading back to Phoenix yesterday, which means we were riding as passengers. We were scrambling to make sure that we could get seats. So it's tough out there.
Yeah, and it just to amplify a couple of things that Diane said. So when it's not just the a single delay, it's systemic. And when you've got the high utilization of the airplanes and the gates and the staffing right now, it compounds rather quickly. And so a delay, particularly in the beginning of the day, is going to affect it down the way, because that airplane might be in and out of 3 or 4 different airports later in the day, and it's going to accumulate. When just for grins, the captain was getting on the airplane when I boarded, and I let him go in front of me, and I said, ask him where they were based out of, and we were coming out of Phoenix. So typically, Americans got a base there, but he was from Chicago, and the first officer was from DFW, or based out of Dallas. So so you can see systemically they're because usually you'll fly with the guys that are based in the same domicile that you're at. So lots of stuff going on right now, and you just can't predict. Typically the airlines, they try to give you plenty of time connecting, but like Diane said, it can all be in the system. But if you're picking up a different airplane going out and it gets there on time, but you don't, because you're sitting out on the ramp, it's hard to say.
And we can't call ahead. We can't ask anybody else to wait for you. That went away years ago. And the flight attendants, we're up in the air. We don't know what's going on in the ground. We really don't.
Yeah.
With regard to the entire. So we want to help you, but we really can't. So our assistance in giving you information for connecting flights is really pretty limited. It really is pretty limited. So
yeah, and the only thing you could semi count on is if you're the last flight out going to whatever your final destination is at night, they might hang on for a while if they can, because they don't want to put anybody up that connected in there. But that's a hell of a way to build an itinerary. You wouldn't want to
always
plan
best
on that.
try to get the first flight of the day, because as Ron said, normally the early morning, the first flight of the day is usually one that goes out right on time, because that's a very big determining factor on how, as he said, the rest. I mean, we're on one plane and we may go 4 or 5 places with one plane.
Yeah.
So
and first flight of the day, the airplane spent the night there typically.
Right.
So that's why you're going to have one in the morning. So, and the other thing that you mentioned about the icing and all that, it it doesn't matter whether it's summer or winter, you get the 35,000 feet and the temperature outside is minus 60. So at some place it's going to go through the freezing level. And when you have icing equipment, we can sometimes dispatch without it. But if you've got any clouds, even though there's not typically rain or thunderstorms in them, like coming out from Phoenix to Dallas this afternoon, when you're climbing out, if you're going through an area of moisture, namely clouds, and the freezing levels in there, then you got to have the engine anti-ice and the wing de-ice has got to work there. So that can otherwise shut you down, and hard to accept when you're sitting on the ground. It's 105 in Phoenix. Why you need the de-icing?
Our passengers, they were a little confused about that one. I will tell you that.
Yeah. But again, on the downside, you don't want to be involved in that where it causes inconvenience for you. But on the upside, that's the way it is, and that's why it's so safe to fly.
Yes.
So, speaking of safe to fly, watch this. And not that Diane said, that's a little bit morbid, Ron, maybe to bring this up, but we're gonna just share with you.
Just in case anybody was thinking of taking the train anytime soon.
Yeah. So I'm trying to, this is Hulu now. Come on, get out of there, Hulu. I was trying to get where's my, there it is. Okay, get out of there. Yeah. So we wouldn't smile upon anybody's tragedy, but it just goes to show you that we've killed more people on trains in the last 10 years than we have on airplanes. And here was unfortunately, I read just a little bit on the details. This is the worst of both worlds, automobiles or vehicles and trains, because they had a vehicle that hit the side of the train and pushed it over and derailed. And you can imagine, I've never been on a train where they said, okay, everybody fasten your seatbelts. No, they don't do that. And so if you happen to be in a train and an unfortunate circumstance where the thing rolls over, you're going to be like a BB in a boxcar, pun intended. Yeah. You're bouncing around there. So anyway, so doggone it, I hate to see anything like this happen, but it just goes to show you. And it fits on top of, again, I mentioned Jim's name. I don't know if he's on or not tonight, but him, this is one of the people that has been our guest on the show, and you've heard me talk about him before. And it took him a while to get back in the air, and he's been doing really great since that time. But his first effort was he had to go back and see his elderly mom in Chicago, and he lives in LA. So he said, okay, I'll ride the train. I'll get some things done. Yeah, he was wrong on all accounts, because the turbulence on the train from how uneven the tracks are was totally annoying. And then he found out once you get out of a populated area, you don't have Wi-Fi, and we had Wi-Fi all the way from Phoenix to Dallas today. So anyway, so does that sound like a commercial for flying? Well, probably is. And yeah. So I don't know if we have any questions or anything that we need to address, Dieter, or
yeah, Jim Duke, there are no seatbelts on a train. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
No, not any. There's not any question. But Sharon said thanks for talking about the weather, because she also flew from Phoenix late Sunday into Monday morning, and so. But it really helped her listening to you and listening to us, Fearless Flight here, and how to handle herself during turbulence. So, and that's what we really recommend. I mean, one of the things how we can prevent relapse, because we mentioned that, is actually staying connected and keep coming back. I mean, we do this show every week. And every week you have the opportunity to ask your questions, get your questions answered. And so and even if you don't, because we often have guests on, there's something new that you're learning connected to flying, which you will then have in the back of your brain as a resource. We also have other free resources for you on our website. So there are a lot of things that if you keep coming back, that you're gonna kind of get into that groove, and all of that helps. It all, it's like a trickle effect. And that's one of the biggest things that happens with relapse, is the question, well, what have you been doing? And the answer is often nothing. And so at least coming back here, watching the show, asking questions, be engaged, joining our Facebook group, being there, reading those posts, because they're very empowering, actually, and very affirming. That's all stuff that'll help slowly but surely. And then obviously we have the 201 or online course that really dives deep into the matter if you really are serious about getting over. So we do have all sorts of layers to offer to you, if you so choose.
Anticipatory anxiety is hurtless, and whether you have issues with the mechanical safety of the airplane, or with being cooped up in the thing, doesn't matter. And everybody, when you haven't flown for a long time, or you've flown and it's been a little bit of time since you've last flown, something like that, anticipatory anxiety eats people alive, because it resets so quickly, and people are waiting for that to go away. It's not going to go away. It goes away in the face of your courage. When you get on the airplane and you guts through it and get on there, it'll be gone for most people in the first couple of minutes of the flight. But perish the thought, if you get off the airplane or you decide not to fly, all you're doing is delaying the time in which you get more comfortable in the airplane. So you got to stay in the fight and staying connected to other people. The sense of community is the way to do that. Talking to us, talking to other people, and because you need a lot of encouragement to do that, because it's gonna be hard for some of you, but it's gonna be so fulfilling. And it's so devastating when people, they give up and then they got to climb up back out of the hole. So stay with us, keep working on it, and we'll be back again next week. So thanks, Diane. Thanks, Dieter. And thanks to all of you for joining us again tonight. And by this time next week, hopefully I won't have to kill you if I tell you what I was doing. So we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.